Thank you for your patience, my friends. just be about another 30 seconds. Just as a reminder, this channel is for educational or perhaps entertainment purposes only, whichever the law prefers. Okay. All right, everybody. Hello. Good to see y'all. Hope you're all doing well and having a good New Year's Eve weekend. Or New Year's weekend. What you guys got planned? Anything fun? I know a few of you do. I was talking to some of you in the Truth in Gaming stream yesterday. So I hope you got some plans, or if you're just gonna chill at home or however you're celebrating, I hope you have a good time and it's peaceful, enjoyable. Hello to Sailing and Ultra and Black Uni, Mao over on Odysee. Great to see y'all. Thank you. Hello, Jenna Lynn over on Rumble. Great to see you. Welcome. And anyone else who may be watching on those platforms. Hello to True Detective and Ethereal, Christina, Holiday, Sky Clock, Purpose, and Neo, and anybody else out there. Chris, hello. Roxana, hello. Lars, Jesse, Jammy, and Cutie Meditations, and KSP. Always good to see you, my friend. Okay, so Dave Rollman, great to see you, brother. Pure Water, always good to see you. Sovereign Invisible, hello. Great to see you as well. Okay, Spaceman, hello. All right, so got interesting case. It's fairly, just ran across it, I think, a week or two ago. And this is, the experiencer's name is Natascha. And she's had a rough one. She grew up at a young age having type 1 diabetes. I think it was started around 8 years old. Also kind of ended up getting paranormal experiences, entity harassment through her childhood and teen years. And then also because of she was experiencing pain, led her to alcohol and exploring a variety of different spiritual paths as well. But she did end up having a near-death experience coma, and that was, of course, due to diabetes. But the reason it happened is because she was exploring different modalities, let's say. Be careful with that one. But you get what I'm saying, and you'll hear more about that. So I'm looking forward to getting into this case with you, and hope you enjoy it. This will be the last Experiencer stream of 2023. And then, of course, we'll start back up next week into the new year, and may even pop in for a quick hello to everybody tomorrow, just for a few minutes. So, but if I don't, I wish you the best new year ahead. So let's get right into this, and I'm looking forward to it, and I think you'll enjoy this case. Just one moment here, just getting this. Okay. Won't be long. Just having a senior moment. Okay. All right, where the heck did it go? Jeez. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. Always something, right? Okay.
Schwer zu schaffen machte, schon als Kind.
Okay, here we go.
Schwer zu schaffen machte, schon als Kind.
Please tell us what you remember.
Woran Sie sich erinnern?
Anfangs bekommt man das nicht so mit also mit 8, man weiß, was...
When you're 8 years old, you don't notice it that much at first. You know roughly that everything is changing now, that something is coming up that you didn't know before, that you might not even see. But that's still a big part of life, that you have to pay attention to things like food, daily routines that change.
So there were already limitations in your life.
Yes, you always try to make everything possible anyway. I think that's what my parents did as well. They were very supportive. But the environment also changes. When I came back to school, I was simply the one who always had to inject and measure.
So a bit of an outsider.
Yes.
How have you coped with that over time?
It is a gradual process. At the beginning, you don't notice it. You think everything is fine, you have it under control. In the beginning, the body still works in such a way that it helps itself and produces a certain amount of insulin itself. That's why the strong fluctuations are not so massive at the beginning. That's how you live your life. At some point, you realize, especially in your youth, that this life does not fit the image of how you want to be. I then had the feeling of wanting to break out.
Was that during puberty?
Right. I drank a lot of alcohol to kind of compensate for the pain and find a way to numb the awareness of my problems and to stay alive. Before that, I tried to be the best diabetes kid, to do everything right. In adolescence, I wanted to break out of that identity. I thought it was forced on me.
Looking back, were the breakout attempts successful?
It's certainly an exciting time when you try things out, when you're on the road a lot, when you live out your life in a different way. Which is perhaps sometimes a little unhealthy. But I think that's part of finding yourself, finding your own identity.
Did you then feel that you could cope with the disease after all? How did you continue to feel mentally?
I was always a bit on the lookout. How can this be solved differently? Or the big questions, what's behind it? At the same time, I had a phase in which I noticed that I perceived more than others. As a child and teenager, I experienced paranormal phenomenon again and again. I saw things in advance, and I had déjà vu for long periods of time and knew what was happening now. I saw and heard things that others do not see and hear.
What, for example?
Sometimes that someone is walking around or someone is standing there. The subject of death was always present in my life. Even when someone passes away, I sometimes noticed it earlier. Could then also say, it would be good if you would visit the person now. I never talked about it openly, because I always thought, then I'm...
The witch.
Yes. Or I'll go to the madhouse.
There was just a strong spiritual disposition.
Yes, exactly.
So imagine, 8 years old. It wasn't really like a friend, but an acquaintance who had diabetes at a young age. I also had a pretty close friend who was blind from birth, and we hung out elementary school, middle school, and it's just terrible to you have to grow up like that, and having something like diabetes and her, like she said, being the kid who had to, prick their finger and take their sugar readings, that can't be fun. And then she's also having, weird paranormal experiences on top of it, and overly aware of death and these premonitions and stuff like that. That's a lot for a little kid to take on. Not easy.
On the one hand, it was also the curiosity to unravel the mystery of life. At the same time, I was extremely afraid of it, because it was not always pleasant energies that I felt. Sometimes it also felt very constricting or rather threatening. But at the same time, there was this curiosity to discover something. What else is there in life? From this whole spectrum of impressions, I then developed an anxiety and panic attacks. And of course, I wanted to know what I could do now, how I could get out of it again, and how I could deal with all that I perceived. I then looked into esoteric spiritual paths and decided to do some training in this area. Later, I also learned spiritual surgery and aura techniques. But at that point, I was still very afraid to talk about being scared and panicked. Even in this training, where people are very open about the subject, I didn't dare talk about it. I then always pretended that everything was fine and that I could handle it. I had developed an extreme panic.
Terrible.
And during the most difficult time, I couldn't sleep for 3 months. because I was attacked by the energies that were there.
So here come the entity attacks.
Things were happening, pictures suddenly flying off the walls. Noises were heard in the apartment, the cause of which could not be seen. And calls came that were just strange. I then got in touch with a pair of therapists through a friend and hoped that maybe they could help me get out of this panic or alleviate it. That's how I found this pair of therapists who have been with me.
Sorry, I'm just going to back it up a little bit.
Therapists through a friend and hoped that maybe they could help me get out of this panic or alleviate it. That's how I found this pair of therapists who have been with me. Over time, it was a long accompaniment. This client-therapist relationship turned into a friendship. For the first time, I really felt like I could talk openly about it. About all the issues, not just the panic attacks, but also the diabetes. And the therapist then had this particular idea about how to solve or get rid of the diabetes.
What was his approach? To find the theme behind the disease? Or to cultivate a certain way of life?
Yes, finding the issue behind it and solving it. But I didn't really understand the concept behind it at the time. I never asked about it. I thought it would be okay. The theory didn't appeal to me.
You see Werner's face? He's like,
I thought it would be okay.
He's like, I don't know about that.
The theory didn't appeal to me.
You told us earlier that you were sometimes able to see into the future. Did that also affect you yourself? Have you been able to foresee a decisive experience in your own future?
Yes, that was in the fall. It was a training evening where we met to practice these training techniques. I was there with 2 colleagues and suddenly fell into a trance state. I can't intentionally initiate or bring about something like that, because it's just there. A timeline or a gate or a window, or whatever you want to call it, it opens. Then I know what's happening. You feel it or you hear it. Sometimes I hear part of it. I knew then that I was going to have a near-death experience. The state didn't last long, maybe a few seconds. Then I came back and looked at them and said, I'm going to have a near-death experience.
That's crazy, right? But she's clearly looked into some of this stuff because she talks about how she was looking into various... All right, looks like we may have dropped the connection. Just one moment. Just double checking. Connection there, so interesting to think about. In here. All right, Odysee and Rumble, can you hear me? Looks like YouTube's okay. Just stand by, guys. Just stand by, guys. Testing 1, 2. Odysee, Rumble, can you hear me? Okay, Odyssee's okay. Rumble's okay. Briefly lost connection on Rumble, but okay now. Okay, we're good. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right. I'm getting, all right, I may have to, all right. Well, it looks all right. But then I'm getting an error from YouTube too, saying the transfer isn't so good. All right, I'm going to keep going, I guess, and see what happens. Okay. All right. If you start to get a drop, just let me know. All right, let's move on. It's buffering again. Yeah, it's happening on my end. All right, I'm going to do one thing here. All right, working okay. All right, we'll keep going. If it happens again, I'm just going to have to disconnect something.
They looked at me and said, "The state didn't last long, maybe a few seconds." Then I came back and looked at them and said, "I'm going to have a near-death experience." They looked at me and said, "I hope not." Then the story was over. I never really believed it myself because I didn't know such experiences from myself before, but only from people around me.
Finally, a near-death experience really happened.
Not immediately. It was around December. That's when I noticed that I wasn't doing so well anymore. I also didn't take care of myself and my illness so well. I suppressed the health problems a bit and said, "It's just the flu, it'll be fine." The values fluctuated. I realized that I was no longer in control of my illness. I then called my parents and asked them to drive me to the hospital because something was wrong. At that time, I had something like a white coat phobia, you could say. I was rather suspicious of
I understand the white coat phobia.
I was rather suspicious of doctors, not positively inclined, because I had had a lot of experiences since I was 8 years old that always involved pain. When you're that young, you have to endure things that you don't find pleasant.
That you don't really want.
No, you don't want them. At that time, the doctors did not respond to my needs at all. I then tried to talk to them. The way they want to adjust the values now won't work because I knew from my experience, for example, that I need more medication to get things back on track, and so on. Nothing was done. They didn't approach me or talk to me either. I felt a bit like a lab rat sitting there, feeling like I was wasting my time because no one was paying attention to me.
That's like the travesty of the modern day you-know-what system. You know your body. Everybody knows their body and what it's reacting to. And she has been dealing with this. Think about it, guys. She's been dealing with this since 8 years old. Okay? So she knows, probably at this point, better than whoever, is helping manage her care, than anybody else, right? I mean, she's going to know. She knows how her body's going to react and what she needs to get her levels in order. But yet, nope, just ignored. No big deal.
Then I decided, not like this. I'm going home again.
So you have taken matters into your own hands.
Yes. After a few days, I realized that it was not good for my body to go home yet. From today's perspective, I would certainly do things differently. I also noticed that my body was no longer accepting my medication, meaning the insulin. I panicked for a moment and thought, okay, Natascha, take a deep breath. It's no use panicking. Now you have to find a solution. Since I had already asked my parents to drive me to the hospital once, I felt that I couldn't ask them again now. I felt like a failure. I felt like I would disappoint them if I called them again now and said, I'm not feeling so well after all, let's go back. Then I tried calling my friends. The funny thing was, maybe it was supposed to be, that nobody picked up except the therapist couple. Everyone was at work or somewhere else. I said, can you guys maybe come over? I'm not feeling well. They came and helped me pack my things. I didn't want to be alone anymore. I didn't feel safe. And then there was a key experience. I walked out my apartment door, turned around and locked it. It was like I was now locking the door to my old life and handing over responsibility to them. Then we went to their home.
What happened next?
Then I can't remember everything exactly because I was already so bad physically that I wasn't really there anymore. I was with the therapist couple for 2 days without medication. Insulin is vital for me. I was staying in the room of a little boy who would come over every now and then, put his hand on my knee, and look at me with big eyes. I couldn't get up on my own anymore. They helped me when I had to go to the bathroom.
Oh, poor thing.
I still remember a scene when the therapist was on the phone with someone from Germany. And I heard the woman's voice. You're going to kill her.
Oh, lovely. Lovely. Yeah, just what she wants to hear, I'm sure. Jeez.
You're going to kill her.
Yeah, exactly. As Neo A says, 2 days without insulin as a diabetic, it's horrible. It's criminal. It's criminal.
I think it was a...
And this is some, supposed other professional, a therapist, I think she said, doing this stuff. And it's ridiculous.
Around noon. She came into the room, looked at me, and then everything shut down for me. My heart stopped beating, and I left this world. They had still given me Dafagan because I was in such hellish pain. My body was just in pain because it couldn't take anymore. Because it was over-acidified and the organs were failing. Suddenly, that pain was gone. Finally, everything was quiet and calm and peaceful. Like everything was so relaxed and there was no more hustle and bustle. I was just free in a beautiful way.
ich weiß noch, wie ich, ja, das war wie so, plötzlich wird alles
It was like suddenly everything became brighter, and I felt like a golden ball was coming toward me.
Und ich weiß nicht, ob ich
I don't know if I was walking toward the sphere or the other way around.
auf einmal wurde die einfach immer
Suddenly,
größer
it became bigger and bigger.
und aus dieser
The
Kuppel
sphere became a field into which I was immersed.
tauchte wie in dieses Feld ein. Und als ich da eintauchte, merkte ich,
Then I
dass ich
suddenly realized that although I was still aware of the surroundings, I had a 360-degree angle of vision.
und
When I
nicht
thought of something, I was already there.
war ich bereits dort. Also
Everything was somehow there at the same time, you could say.
Zeitpunkt da, könnte man sagen. Und alles.
Everything merged into each other.
Es gab nicht mehr diese Trennung vom Körper.
There was no longer this separation and limitation of the body.
Es war eigentlich wie
Instead, it was open
und
and absolutely peaceful.
absolut friedvoll.
No more limitations. It was open and peaceful.
Separation and limitation of the body.
Es war eigentlich wie
Instead, it was open
und
and absolutely peaceful
absolut friedvoll.
and beautiful and calm. Suddenly, I heard a pleasant and soothing sound.
Und
The longer I was in this field, the more I merged with it. There was no longer this demarcation of table and chair.
vielen Anteilen
It was all one. The longer I was there, the brighter it became. The more I discovered different parts of my soul or people that I somehow knew. I knew they weren't really alive anymore. It didn't matter.
keine Rolle, also wie soll ich sagen, ich
I couldn't see their faces, but I could simply perceive their energy.
Und es war auch
So she couldn't see their faces, but she could perceive their energy. And then she even goes further and says, you know, animals, I think plants.
Whether plant, animal, or human,
man spürte die verschiedenen
you could feel the different essences of these energies.
Ich konnte sie so
I could place them.
und ich war aber nicht lange
So I think what we're potentially seeing here is a different frequency connection in the lower earth astral. I'm guessing, but I don't think she's, you know, fully left the earth realm or anything like that. I'm just guessing, but based on her description.
also
But I didn't stay long and I didn't talk to
Ich habe
them.
nicht irgendwie mit ihnen gesprochen oder so, sondern es ist, als würden so. Als
I
wäre
felt
ich
like a
ein
drop
Tropfen
in the
auf dem
ocean.
Ozean, so fühlt es sich an. Also,
I merged with
mit all
everything.
dem und plötzlich
Suddenly, I felt as if the water washed me through and maybe washed or wiped away a little bit. I merged with this ocean.
Okay, so it's interesting to also hear her bring up the water connection too, right? I mean, how many times do we show the correlation with the water? I mean, and here she is just, oh, you know, it's like I was merging with the ocean and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of times that, I mean, it's so over the top how often we see it, it's not even funny. And just the connection with everything related to coming here, being here, reincarnating here, the life between lives, or I'm sorry, the pre-birth area. I mean, it's just incredible how often this pops up in both ends of the spectrum.
als würden
I do want to give a big thank you to, I'm sorry, I'm a little backed up on the super chats, but thank you so much to David Rollman. David Rollman says, Mark, I know this will only pay for a Happy Meal, but I really want to wish you and yours the very best 2024. Hey, Dave, anything's appreciated. That's very kind to you. Thank you so much. And I thank you. I appreciate it, my friend. And I wish you the very best in 2024. And Dolphin also sent a very kind super chat, says thank you. Thank you as well. And then Uwu, hello. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Says thank you for all you do, Mark. Here's to the next year. All the best. Thank you so much. That's very kind of you, Uwu. Really appreciate it. Okay. Thanks so much, guys and ladies.
I felt like a
True
drop in the
essence
ocean. I merged with everything. Suddenly, I felt as if the water washed me through and maybe washed or wiped away a little bit.
Washed or wiped away a little bit. Washed or wiped away a little bit. You mean memory? Because that's like the common theme we see. Lethe's water. Waters of forgetfulness. And she's using the term, not me, she's using the term, it washed away.
I merged with everything. Suddenly, I felt as if the water washed me through and maybe washed or wiped away a little bit. I merged with this ocean, and suddenly I was in one place. I washed up like I was on a sandy beach. Suddenly it became hot. I felt kissed by the sun because it was so pleasantly warm, bright, and peaceful. Looking around, I saw that someone was waiting for me there. To me, none of this was out of the ordinary, as if I knew it would go on now. There was someone standing there on a Harley, or so I remember, picking me up. I greeted him as if I had known him forever. Then we rode a stretch of road that was pretty dry and hot. I felt like there was a heat there. I was really burning. It was pleasant to ride with the wind. It was a long ride through a barren desert landscape. He brought me to a stop.
He brought me to a stop.
I just knew I had to wait there, that a train would come.
I just knew I had to wait there and that a train would come. I mean, I'm trying to, what was it? What's the TV show? It's going to drive me crazy. It's a soul trap freaking truth bomb show. It's got like Ted Danson in it. I can't believe I can't remember the name. I know as soon as I say that, one of you will chime in. Please chime in. What the hell is the name of the show? It's and by the way, it's everyone should watch it. But The Good Place. I can't believe I forgot it. Thank you. Yes, The Good Place. Yeah, they have the representation of them going on the train back and forth. Pretty sure it was in that show a number of times. But it gets even more interesting. And it's going to line up with the data patterns just like everything else. The Bad Place, yes. Exactly.
I just knew I had to wait there, that a train would come. And it did. Then the doors opened and I was greeted by various beings who were like companions I had always known.
I was greeted by companions that I had always known. You know, again, familiarity, beings that she knows.
Then I received an assignment, and the doors closed again. We went to a new station. I was given an assignment and dropped off at the station. I knew I had to do something. I don't remember all the details. All I remember is that at last I hesitated for quite a long time, whether I wanted to go back at all, whether I wanted to change something or not. I hesitated for a long time, and then I did go back to the stop. Everyone on the train was clapping and rejoicing. I felt like this train was already moving on.
Okay. They're all clapping. What does that remind you of? How often do we talk about these NDEers or a number of different types of experiencers who have an NDE-like experience or an NDE. Oftentimes they can walk into something like a room, a stadium, an arena, and all of a sudden, like, big claps and all that stuff. That is beyond manipulative, beyond deceptive. It is one of the biggest giveaways in experiencers. And it's clearly an ego booster. It's clearly to get them like distracted and happy and, again, elevate the ego, all that stuff to normalize everything. But what does it always result in? Them coming back here. And what's interesting is that these things are, they're not just experienced in NDEs. They're experienced, after the life review, the life between lives area. I mean, in between the soul classes and all that stuff. I mean, it is crazy. Breakthrough trips, it happens. So to me, so it's not just happening to those who have, or who still have a connection on Earth, but they have already left Earth, because the life between lives and in between the soul classes and all that stuff, that type of stuff occurs upon arrival into the astral, after you leave and are still stuck within this matrix system. It's incredible. And I'm sorry, it's all bullshit. And when I say bullshit, I mean bullshit because it is about deceiving people, taking advantage, or not people, deceiving true essence beings, and building and boosting their ego, making them feel special, and then lo and behold, what's going on? Oh, another incarnation. Still being stuck in this system over and over and over again. Come on, it's such a dead giveaway. It's not even funny.
I felt like this train was already moving on and had to be stopped so I could even get back on. That was the last stop. After that, I returned to my body. And suddenly I felt and perceived the body again. But not yet completely. I was connected to the body again and could perceive the pain of the body again. But I could not wake up yet. I realized that I was not fully back yet. I experienced myself trapped in the body in some way.
That was rather nightmarish then.
And this is something we see often. And even though I try to cover the coma type experiences and mix them in, but I mean there's a relatively small sample on this channel, but there's many to be found. So I feel these are important cases because they distinguish the difference between what someone can experience while under the influence of drugs versus not. And so often what we hear when someone's kind of coming out of or approaching coming out of a coma, they are lucidly aware but unable to communicate that they do not want further coma drugs or sedation or whatever's going on, because all that does is send them back in. I mean, there's countless examples of this where they're aware but they just can't communicate it, and then boom, what does it? It throws them right back into it. Some of them, I mean, you're going to hear. There was a man. Actually, he was a Marine sniper that I interviewed a couple years ago, and the interview's been sitting on my hard drive forever, and I had to wait for kind of some time to pass before I can put it out there, but it is going to be coming out in January. And he had a NDE coma and went through hell. But when he experienced it, it was during that whole thing that we went through. And it's a hell of a case. It's a hell of a case. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. I think, talked to him for almost 3 hours. And that will be coming to the channel soon, along with the Dr. Moody interview. But anyways, back to what we're talking about with Natascha here. It's a shame that someone can't say anything. With the sniper, he mustered up enough to be able to put a stop to it. And I think I covered a case not that long ago, maybe a month or so ago, with a similar thing where they were barely able to get anything out, but they were just enough to tell the doctors to cut it out and stop putting them back in this comatose state. So let's move on.
I experienced myself trapped in the body in some way.
That was rather nightmarish then.
Yes. The experience developed in the direction of a nightmare. At first, I noticed that other people were around me, but I could not express myself, could not talk to them, could not express my needs. I also noticed that I was being sedated again and again with medication.
See, she's aware.
Inwardly, I rebelled against it because I realized that I didn't want that.
Poor thing.
That is, you then returned to your body, noticed that there was something happening to your body, but didn't know exactly where you were.
Yes, I became aware that I had to be in a clinic because I felt around me different people who were in a similar situation, who also couldn't express themselves, but who were even more stuck than I was. I was aware that I was trapped in a situation or in this physical dilemma or something like that. Everything seemed apathetic to me there.
Okay, so she's aware, while she's admitted, she's aware of others who are going through these same struggles because they're on the same, let's just say frequency or wavelength, whatever you want to call it, right? They both still have the cord attached, but are trying to get themselves, I guess, back to their body is the best way to put it. And some are worse than her. And she's aware of that. I mean, that's got to be terrifying to be aware of that while you're having the same problem and you're in a medical, like a hospital setting where you're aware of others in the setting in the same hospital. I mean, just think about it, because everything's like condensed. That energy's all condensed into that one area. That's got to be really difficult. And then just like she's saying, she was fighting it with inside, but she couldn't get it out in words. I mean, horrible. Absolutely horrible.
Everything seemed apathetic to me there. But I also realized that I was being visited by my parents and my sisters. I also realized that there were other people who were there and they were numbing me. When someone came closer, I felt my heart beat faster. Then I would get another injection to stabilize or sedate my body. It was not a pleasant experience. At some point, I also wondered what would happen if I didn't come back. You then go through all the scenarios that seem possible. In the end, I decided to just let go now because I can't change anything. I was very desperate and said, if I come back, dear Creator, God, whoever is there, then only healthy. I will only come back healthy. That's my deal.
I love it.
And
I love it. That's awesome. I will only come back healthy. She's laying the groundwork. And you know what? These bastards want her back no matter what, right? I'm sorry. I got to use the language, right? That's the goal, right? She's supposed to come back. And, you know, she's almost bargaining at this point, saying, hey, the deal is if I'm coming back and I'm dealing with all this BS, I'm coming back healthy.
Only come back healthy. That's my deal. And I want to come back now. Now I'm letting go because I've done everything. I've tried to negotiate with life.
You had been put into a coma.
Yes. Funnily enough, then something really happened. Not immediately, but it didn't take that much longer. Then they woke me up and said that I was being taken to my mother. That's when I knew, now things are moving forward.
Your near-death experience thus began as a mystical experience.
Okay, so I do have to take a break, but I'd like to give a big thank you to Redneck Steve for the very kind and generous super chat as well. Says, your research and videos have given me hope. Oh, that's really kind. And that's the goal, right? Everything's about self-empowerment, my friends. We're so much more powerful than we give ourselves credit for. And Natascha's story echoes that, right? I mean, she talked about how she would just think things and it would happen, right? We can direct our intentions to our own destiny. And that destiny is liberation. And that should be, above everything else, self-empowering. Now, I realize like the discussions and all that stuff about all of this isn't always easy. But, you know, once the dust settles and you kind of get through a bunch of these and you see what's going on, then it really should provide a great gateway to forging your own path. And we have that power. We truly do. And so thank you, Redneck Steve. I appreciate that greatly. And Spirit, thank you so much for your very kind super chat as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate you. And appreciate everyone else who has donated tonight to the channel. And so we'll be right back. Won't be long. Thank you, Rumble, Odysee, and YouTube. And be back in about 5 minutes. Thank you. Thank you for your patience, my friend. Welcome back. Just as a reminder, this channel is for educational or perhaps entertainment purposes only. And also want to just let anyone new or maybe unaware, I do have the channel on YouTube, Odysee, and Rumble. There's also a backup channel on YouTube. Be great if you could subscribe to that just in case something should ever happen here. And also Odysee and Rumble are great for that as well. And there are links in the description tab. And I also have a Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook where I just post notifications prior to a stream. So if you're on those platforms, you can get a notification, because notifications are not always reliable, especially on YouTube. So yeah, I highly suggest that. I also have an email list, and I promise to never sell your information, share your information, none of that stuff. It's been sitting there just in case something should ever happen to the channel. I had it for probably a year and a half or two, and I still have yet to send an email out. So, you know, it's just there in case I need to send out notifications, or whenever the hell I finally get to getting a website up for you guys. So, feel free to sign up for that and drop your email so we can stay in touch. And then I think I'm missing something. Oh yeah, Truth in Gaming. I have that available on YouTube and Rumble, although all the videos are currently on YouTube at the moment, as I'm waiting to hear back from Rumble about an issue I'm having with that. But the account's there, so if you, depending on the platform you're on, may want to subscribe to both. And then I have the Laughing at the Clown World channel, which is a side project just for fun and laughs and a chill channel. But I still have yet to publish on that either, which I was hoping to do a few months ago. But no doubt we will get to that, and it's just a way to, you know, have some laughs, right? Laugh at the insanity of the world. You can't take this place seriously. It's just not worth the heartache or struggle or anything like that. Like you can't. You just have to laugh at the absurdity, and that's what that channel's for. And I suggest just looking at the realm through that lens anyways, and your life will be that much better for it. Once you start to take things way too seriously and have it affect your day-to-day life, including the information shared on this channel, you know, it's like you just step back, my friends, right? Just step back, take a breather. The information will still be here. I'm not saying it's not important, because it certainly is, but at the same time, sometimes we all have to check in with ourselves and know when is a good time to just back off for a little while and collect ourselves, and then come back and do your own research. You know, either watch my videos, Dan, Wayne, whatever, and go from there. So yeah, all right, let's get back into this case. And I want to again wish each and every one of you a happy new year ahead, a safe and liberated new year ahead, productive and stress-free. Okay, let's go.
And said that I was being taken to my mother. That's when I knew, now things are moving forward.
Your near-death experience thus began as a mystical experience of unity. In further consequence, however, more eye-related experiences were in the foreground, experiences in space and time, the stations. One often hears from near-death experiences that the experience seems more real than real. One has found the term hyperreality for it. Coma experiences, on the other hand, often seem more like nightmares. Have you also experienced this difference in quality between the actual near-death experience and what you then experienced in a coma?
Yes, up until the moment I was picked up on this motorcycle, on this Harley, it was like a near-death experience for me in the classic sense. This heat is clearly something from the comatose state, because I had an extremely high fever that could not be cooled or lowered. That's where it mixes a bit, because being submerged in this ocean is already this transition. You then obviously also try to cool the body. For me, that was actually very, very real, until the end of the station. At the end, it was like a different quality, because then I realized I'm close to the body again. And I realized the people around me I know partly, or the staff must be from the hospital. That is already a different quality.
You told us that you experienced, so to speak, how your heart stopped beating. What happened next? Is that correct? The therapist resuscitated you, then you were taken to the hospital. Resuscitation was continued in the process and further life-saving measures were taken.
Exactly. I turned off the light, so to speak, and died. He resuscitated me from the first second. I was in cardiac arrest for 45 minutes. They called the ambulance. I was then supposed to be flown to the hospital because my condition was so bad. That didn't work at the time because the weather didn't cooperate.
Thanks,
Then they
Matrix.
transported me by ambulance. They also had to organize suitable equipment because the hospital didn't have it. Then the transport came from Lucerne to Zurich. I also find this exciting. When I came back from the coma, it was like a train ride again for me.
Huh.
I was anesthetized again or sedated so that I wouldn't have too much excitement again. I wasn't all there anymore. But it was like a train ride again for me. On the old trains, there was a typical sound that the train cars made. Maybe you remember that. To me, it sounded like a train ride again.
I like that old sound.
Then I was taken from Zurich to Lucerne.
I think the train sounds like that, where the train, or the, you know, that, where they just like hit, kind of clunk up against one another.
That was like a journey by train again for me, another stop.
How did things go physically after that? Did you recover to a large extent?
I took a positive energy with me from the experience. I did not know at first what had actually happened. I came back to earthly life and did not know how it had happened, who was there. That I was in the hospital. I knew because I had witnessed that process, but I didn't know the story behind it. By taking so much positive energy with me, somehow anything now seemed possible. My thoughts would never have allowed me to give up, and that although I could not even touch anything with my hand. In the beginning, I also had to be fed because I was so weak physically. I weighed just under 40 kilos and had no muscles left. I couldn't even hold my head.
How long, in total, were you in intensive hospital care?
I was in a coma for 10 days, and another 10 days passed before I entered rehab. I had a strong will to live. I sometimes sat for 2 hours eating because I wanted to regain my strength. At that time, I had been given a nasal tube, through which I was kept alive with food. I wanted to get rid of it as soon as possible, and did everything I could. That was like the first sign of my goal. I'm going to get well again. Everything is going to be okay. There was this one sentence that was important for me. I always said, tomorrow is a new day, and a new day is a new chance. I always made time for my emotions, which I had never done before. I had never shown emotions. I really made time for my emotions and was able to cry and show myself vulnerable. But then I decided anew what to do. My kidney wasn't working anymore. I wasn't really aware of it. I then had to go on dialysis to have my blood washed. So I simply said, now I'm doing something good for my body. Now I have 5 hours to myself to meditate. Just watching TV or something like that was out of the question for me. So in that time, I do whatever is good for me. And for me, that is wellness. And wellness is where I get comfortable. I consciously give my body the time it needs to regenerate. The doctor said that wouldn't work. I said, yes, it does. I know my body is healthy. It can do this and everything will be fine. And it was. A week later, the kidney was working again. That was something unbelievable even for the doctors. I never doubted that it was possible.
How did you then continue to deal with the issue of diabetes?
The first moment was a bit sobering to know, okay, the diabetes is still there. I was briefly a little frustrated. Maybe that's an exaggeration, but okay.
The deal was, after all, to want to be completely healthy.
Yes, but I define myself as quite healthy. If I had the flu now, I would say I was sick. But with diabetes, I don't feel sick.
In the end, you really came to terms with it.
Yes, exactly. I just said to myself, okay, this is the way it is. I revisited the whole situation when I realized I hadn't quite accepted it for myself yet. That was also a process. But I think today I understand the disease a little differently. I think it's not diabetes that's the problem. It's how I deal with it. And it's actually just a communication from the body that helps you see things differently. It's like an amplifier for what is. When I'm emotionally angry, the blood sugar reacts. And I can see that one-on-one now. I understand now why it's like that. I understand that the body just found this form to express itself. I think that's what diabetes is for me today.
Yeah, it's just the rationalization of what's going to, like oh, well, hey, we made a deal and, perhaps under the inducement of the coma, well, you're not as going to be fully aware, even though she has recall of making her case stated that she wants to come back healthy, et cetera, et cetera. But, this type of thing can be maintained. The problem is who she was dealing with. That I'll go out on a limb and say that. Of course, don't know everything, but based on everything she shared, that's what it seems to be. And as Lars said, yep, they lied to her.
I think I needed all that to understand. It's not about resolving
And
something
Stockholm
or fighting
syndrome,
the
exactly. Yep. Kaneko says, and Stockholm syndrome, exactly. Yep. Just the excuses all the time. You know what it's like. It's same old song and dance. Just making anything that can excuse this reality way and not put the parasites in the spotlight. Mission accomplished.
today.
Und ich glaube, ich habe das alles gebraucht,
I think I needed all that to understand. It's not about resolving something or fighting the disease, but understanding what is your body trying to tell you? What is it trying to tell you?
Yeah, but she experienced an area without the body. She knows there's a difference, but yet comes back to the body. And it's just amazing, right? There can't be a critical analysis when you come back that says, oh, this doesn't make sense. Something's wrong here. I mean, not, like, look, you still got to go and live through life till natural death. But at that point, you think some red flags and questions would be brought up.
What is your body trying to tell you? What is it trying to tell you? Those are maybe the things that will take you the farthest. I think diabetes helps me move forward. It's just my invisible companion. I named my diabetes because I thought, if it's already there, I want it to be a good buddy. So I named that buddy Johnny. That was one of the first steps toward acceptance. Today, it's more of an issue where I find it very interesting to keep figuring out, why isn't this working the way I think it should now? Why are there fluctuations? It's become more of a journey of discovery.
So, as an aid to a process of awareness.
Yes, extremely.
What happened after the near-death experience, after this crisis?
Externally, a lot has changed as well. I lost a lot of hair. I had long blonde hair and suddenly I had no hair. I knew beforehand that the outside had changed a lot. Then I prepared myself and said, okay, Natascha, when you step in front of the mirror for the first time, expect to look like a ghost. So first take a deep breath and then close your eyes and go for it. That's how it was. I always prepared myself a bit for what was coming and just took it with humor.
Then you also had the strength for that.
Yes, because this energy that you take with you is simply indescribable.
Did you have any contact with a therapist couple after that? Maybe to find out what really happened? Maybe to work through his approach to managing diabetes?
Yes. Half a year after that experience, I still didn't know exactly what had happened. Everyone around me had come up with their own version of the story, but even they didn't know exactly what had happened. Then I decided to contact the therapist couple again on neutral ground to talk, especially with the therapist's wife, because our connection was somehow very special.
Yeah, well, you almost died.
That was a special encounter because I didn't know how to deal with what had happened.
So it was a special encounter, but you got to keep this in mind, right? This has life script written all over it, right? So she goes to a therapist, okay? Come on, just hang with me for a minute. Goes to a therapist. The therapist tells her not to take insulin. She hasn't been taking it for multiple days, goes into shock, or as Carly Bear says, she's going into what's called DKA, equals diabetic ketoacidosis. It's deadly. Okay, so has the experience, goes outside the body. I think she was in a coma for, what'd she say, 7 days, 10 days, 14 days, or something like that. Goes through this hell experience. Can't tell the doctors that she wants to, get out of it and to stop drugging her and keeping her in this comatose state. Goes through more torture, basically. Comes back and trying to figure out what happens to her or what happened to her. And then, of course, you know, is unknowingly or knowingly working at the behest of the Matrix marketing department and sharing her story. And still conversing with the individuals responsible. If there isn't a more clear life script pipeline in this experience, then I don't know what is. Just my opinion, but it seems pretty blatant.
Und ja, es war eine spezielle.
That was a special encounter
Weil
because I didn't know how to deal with what had happened, and neither did she.
Und es war so irritierend.
It was so irritating because from her point of view, I was again the one she knew from before.
Und dann hatte ich wieder das Gefühl,
But I felt like it was all about her issues.
Und ja, also auch.
After all, I had had a lot of time to reflect on everything that had happened and to become aware of what was right for me and what wasn't, what I would do differently in retrospect.
Yeah, being like misled into a diabetic coma, perhaps. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't be on the friendliest terms with this couple. You know, I'm sorry.
Und ich hatte wie den Eindruck,
But for her, everything seemed to be okay. I had the feeling
I
she would
bet it
do it
was.
that way again. Then
I bet everything was fine with her. She didn't go through the goddamn coma.
I had the feeling she would do it that way again. Then the conversation was about the trauma she had experienced.
Und
Oh, please.
ja, ich dachte
I thought,
so,
okay, I've been fighting my way back into life for the last few weeks and months.
Und irgendwie war da.
I don't know what I expected.
Ich hätte vielleicht einfach.
No, because I don't know who these people are, okay? But we know they are taking an alternative approach to everything. Remember at the beginning of the story, seriously, nestle this in the back of your head. What did she say? She was trying to get some help, ended up going to a therapist and becoming friends with her therapist. That alone is ridiculous. It's not supposed to work that way. And so not only is she making friends with the therapist, but the wife too. And they're connected in each other's lives. You know, what happened, you know, there's like a code of conduct that's it's unwritten. It's at least here, well, not even unwritten. It's taught here in the US. And that's that you know, if you're a therapist or psychiatrist, things like that, that you're not mingling or hanging out with or becoming friends with your patients outside of work. That goes beyond the bounds of what is ethical, and rightfully so. So things like this do not happen. And if I had to guess, and I'm probably reaching here, there's probably something else that was going on. Can I prove it? No, but there's probably something else being left out of this. So make it what you will, but it's unethical at the very minimum. And then she comes back, is communicating with the therapist's wife, and she's so narcissistic and sociopathic that she has to talk all about her trauma. Meanwhile, Natascha just was on the brink of death. going through a diabetic coma because of her husband. Just sit on that for a minute and think how screwed up that entire scenario is. It's reprehensible. Anyways, this is the type of shit that drives me crazy, and it's clear just listening to this, like the progression of events fits like a glove into the life script. There's no doubt about it.
I do. I would have expected a statement.
I mean, I said opinion earlier, but I mean, just like, I'm going to make it all about me, even though, like, you're the one who just came from the brink of death and back. I mean, come on. I mean, that's selfish as it gets. I wouldn't be surprised if there was, like, some sort of cult being run in the background with all this. Maybe I'm wrong, but something's off. Something's really off.
I don't know what I expected. I do. I would have expected a statement like, it didn't all go well, or something like that.
Yeah.
But nothing came.
That is, you yourself had gone through a transformative process that led to mental recovery, but experienced in the conversation that for the therapist, it was still about advocating a theory or a therapeutic attempt.
In retrospect, I had the impression that the therapists wanted a breakthrough in medical history. To put it exaggeratedly, I was a bit of an experiment.
What happened next until you decided to make your own experience as a coach available?
So see, I was an experiment.
I had the impression that the therapists wanted a breakthrough in medical history. To put it exaggeratedly, I was a bit of an experiment.
No, that's not exaggerating. No, her life was put at risk because of this crazy kook and his wife. And yeah, she was an experiment, but, courtesy of the life script.
What happened next until you decided to make your own experience as a coach
so
available
selfish,
to others?
Exactly. Insane.
It was a long process to really accept the disease. I did everything I could. What do I think about it? I analyzed everything and turned my whole life upside down. I quit my job, moved. Through this near-death experience, I realized that I had experienced something that not many people experience. I felt like I needed to write it down for myself. I took a pen and wrote it all down. My employer then provided me with a coach. I didn't know the professional field, and I realized this is exactly what I've always wanted to do. Many pieces of the puzzle came together. I also asked myself why we think about death so late, why we can't simply integrate this topic into our lives. In life, there are always bigger and smaller deaths. I realized that it's not about the fear of death at all, but about being afraid to really live. To live from the heart, and to live our lives the way we want to. When I was first allowed to pick up a pen in the hospital, I wrote down 3 things. I live my life, I realize my dreams, and I speak my truth. Sometimes in society, we are trapped in certain norms. What is right, what is wrong? We no longer ask, is this true for me? But isn't that what makes us all individual? To be individual and to live this individuality? I then tried to put that into practice.
I like that.
So, all in all, you found a way out of the passivity of being a victim of a disease, of being a victim of norms, of getting out of this rigidity that was also connected with fear, to conscious activity.
Yes, I have embarked on a journey of discovery.
von sich selbst oder auch
after myself and after what else there is.
Also eigentlich wieder zu diesem Anfang zurück.
Actually, just to discover the mystery of life.
Haben Sie das Gefühl,
Do you feel that you have discovered something of this mystery?
haben Sie das Gefühl, dass
Do you feel that everything you have experienced has a deeper, hidden meaning?
einen Sinn hat?
Ja,
Yes, I
also
believe
ich glaube,
that.
dass jeder von uns seinen
I believe that each of us has our task or mission.
Ich glaube, die ist
I believe that it is specific and individual.
Nur wenn wir unsere Individualität und diese Einzigartigkeit leben, dann sind wir ein
Only when we live our individuality and this uniqueness, we are like a fire that ignites and inspires others.
See, I mean, think about what she's saying here. But just listen to this statement.
Dann sind wir ein
Only when we live our individuality and this uniqueness, we are like a fire that ignites and inspires others.
I mean, I think that's an amazing statement. The problem is it's like she's like right there. She's right there. She's right at the finish line. And I feel that, I'm just going to expand on this a little bit. I feel that most of us here, maybe not all of us, but I would say a good chunk of us have been through this process a number of times. We were probably close to liberating ourselves in a past life, a very recent past life or past lives. And like we were just not aware enough of our individuality and how important it is and how we can stand up for ourselves as sovereign beings and liberate ourselves without interference. Key thing, without interference. There's no aliens, there's no bullshit out there that's going to force you to do anything. And people that say that are full of shit. Okay? Anyone who's trying to angle you and get you deceived on the topic of the soul trap, and there are many, all right? It's just not the case, all right? Time after time, case after case, we see example after example of how someone's intention is king or queen or it's everything, right? And that's something that we should all take solace in and feel great comfort in. And these are things you can also experience on your own by doing things like a meditation practice, a heightened meditation, trying to go outside the body, or astral projection, however you want to frame it, right? Working on lucid dreaming. Well, you can literally prove to yourself that you are capable of driving the narrative and running the show. But this is the most coveted secret. It really is. It is held back because this entire system and the adjacent systems are designed to get each and every one of us to think and believe that something exterior to ourselves is controlling and running the show and has jurisdiction over us. Ask yourself this question, my friends. We come here lifetime after lifetime not knowing where we came from, why we are here, or where we are going. And if you don't even want to go to the lifetime after lifetime area, despite there being more than enough evidence in support of that, just think about the moment you're in now, the incarnation that you're in now. You've lived it, you've experienced it, you're going through it. And what memories do you have? I get these rebuttals every once in a while where people say, oh, well, I remember my past life of this. I don't care who you are. I have past life memories. I've done regressions, all that stuff, right? And they're fun, they're enjoyable, they're revealing, and I don't dissuade anyone from trying them. I do feel that you need to find someone appropriate to facilitate something like that. But any past life regression or past life realization is only going to provide so much of the information. I don't care who you are, where you come from, or anything like that, because everything points to us not knowing where we came from, what we were doing before we came into this system. And when I say system, it's the overall matrix system, not just Earth. There is a clear lack of information. There's a clear disconnect, and that is concerning. And that's something that we all just need to consider, right? And the beauty of all this is that you can teach yourself, you can learn things to go and experience and realize that you control the show. You control your destiny. There's nothing more powerful than that. So if you feel you're at the point where you need further evidence or something, the only next step is to work on getting outside the body. And it's, you know, I mean, I'll admit, for me, it's a pain in the ass. But I've done it. I've done it a number of times. And everyone can do it. Some people can do it much easier than others. And, you know, I tip my hat to anyone who can easily do stuff like that. I mean, because that's what I would love to do. But I mean, no matter what I do, it's like my experiences are, you know, they're not every week or every day or something like that. I'm lucky if I get something, you know, once a month or every other month or something, you know, like, but the point is like, I can take full confidence in my inner knowing, for me at least, that I've experienced that. I know that I'm capable of doing certain things, or not doing certain things, doing everything, like being able to dictate what my intentions are. And that's just inherent to all of us. I'm not special. Nobody's special. We're all creator beings capable of amazing things. But what this realm has systematically done, and its adjacent counterparts, has diminished our abilities to realize that that's possible. And this, and it's clear as well that this has been going on for a long time. This is not new. This goes way back, for as far back as we have records for, the systematic stomping on our sovereignty as humanity is consistent and never ending. And yet, when you die, we keep seeing over and over and over again that the narrative is that everything's about love. That's what the data says. The data says over and over and over and over again that everything's about love. Yet, we're coming from a system that clearly defies that logic. And yet, when you go over to the other side, it's advertising itself as love, as a love bomb, and manipulating and deceiving and keeping us in the system. What it doesn't want us to do is to realize who and what we are. It wants to pull the rug out of you and have you just completely embedded and trained into attachments and religions and distractions and anything that it can get its hands on, as long as you believe. As long as you believe in what the system is selling, it's got you. Does that mean you don't care about your friends, your family, your pets? Hell no. You love and care and cherish those moments until it's time to go. But when it comes to the afterlife, when it comes to when you are on your way out and it's time to go, and natural death is on at the corner, that's something else entirely. All right, and because this system is clearly illustrated further that it uses our attachments, our friends, our family, our soul group, our pets as pawns against us, as distractions against us. And that leads into deathbed premonitions, visions, visitations, and shared death experiences. And I mean, look, we can, I don't want to ramble on too much, but you get the point. When is it time for us to take back control of us? And again, if I'm wrong, if we're all wrong, so be it, right? If we, I think the answer is clear. This is my game plan, and make of it what you will. But my game plan is like, okay, so when I'm leaving here, when it's time to go at natural death, I will shield myself with my intention so that nothing can interfere or interact, whisper in my ear telepathically, whatever the case may be. Nothing is capable of getting through. That's the shielding aspect. Then the second part would be to apply a sovereign intention for full liberation outside of this entire matrix system. And when I say entire matrix system, I always put this back out there because it's not just Earth. It's the entire thing. Any and all realm systems related to this freak show or this matrix, I am transcending with my intention to a realm of my own creation that is impenetrable. And then I'm just going to take things from there. But I'm not going to allow a tunnel. I'm not going to allow a light. I'm not going to allow, quote unquote, deceased loved ones that pretend to be them, or God or source or creator, whatever's trying to pawn itself off as authentic, when it is responsible and linked to this existence. The fact that something like this is allowed to continue, when there is a clear pipeline, a clear link between those things, that alone should be enough for suspicion. And if we're wrong, then you know what? It's all about love, right? It's all about love. You can't lose. If God, source, creator, whatever, is all about love, and that, everything in the afterlife is all about love, or in the astral it's all about love, then clearly it wouldn't have a problem with me taking direction as a creator being and making a sovereign decision, and then coming back and saying, hey, what's going on? I was wrong. See? But if you don't allow yourself that moment or that intention to flourish and allow yourself to be separated from all of the distractions and the attachments, then you'll never know. Then it's like an immediate pipeline right back into the matrix of some kind. That's what it seems like. Am I 100% on any of this? No, but it seems pretty evident. And so that's, again, where the self-empowerment part comes in. It's like, we are so much more than this. And just ask yourself this question, my friends. What were we doing? Where did we come from? What were we up to before we came to Earth, or had all these multiple incarnations, or before we came into this matrix system in general? You have to think bigger. We all have to think bigger and ask ourselves, what were we doing? We have no memory of this. And that's the biggest nail in the coffin into all of this. We have no memory of where we came from and what we were doing before we got involved with all this. And if that's not a red flag, and if that's not motivation enough to take the sovereign direction in your future, your eternal existence, then I don't know what is. So that's just, again, my opinion, but we're coming to the tail end of the experience, and thanks for tuning in. We've probably got another 5-10 minutes.
No one can live someone else's life, and we listen to what is normality. I think that's part of the mystery of life. that everything is for experience and that life never ends. It's just different stages. After death, it goes on.
Do you still have any fears today when you think about death?
I don't have a fear of death anymore at all. I think it is something very beautiful. It's like coming home and preparing for something new. But there are still some fears. I think that's the way people are. They cling to life with their minds and with certain ideas and expectations.
Ms. Amrein, all the best for the future, and thank you very much for your openness and for letting us share your experiences. Thank you very much for the interview.
Thanks also.
All right. So, I want to thank each and every one of you for an amazing 2023, and I wish all of you an amazing 2024 ahead. And thank you to everyone who supported the channel tonight and who supports the channel through memberships and through viewing. Please consider hitting the like button before you head out tonight. It would be greatly appreciated. It does help the channel. Or maybe sharing this video on your social media, Discord, Facebook, Twitter, wherever you're at. Help spread the word. Those small things do help. And all I'm trying to do is get the word out. So I want to thank everyone over on Rumble, Odysee, and YouTube. Appreciate you all. Sorry I wasn't able to get into the chat too much tonight, but it's difficult to multitask, so I will probably swing in tomorrow, which is December 31st, on a multi-stream on Odysee and YouTube and probably Rumble as well, just to say hi and send out some New Year's wishes. So take care of yourselves, but if I don't see you, appreciate you all. Take care and much love. All right. I will be headed over to the gaming channel right after this. So if you'd like to join, a link will pop up. I'm going to put that in the chat very shortly, and we'll probably get started in about 10 minutes. Okay. It's going to be on the Truth in Gaming channel over on YouTube, and look forward to seeing some of you there. Going to be playing some Horizon Zero Dawn, which had a lot more truth bombs than I expected, and won't be playing long, but if you want to swing by, you're more than welcome. All right, much love.